Hi everyone, I'm Prerna Dadu. Welcome to another episode of the Unredacted. And today we're going to talk about sex and desire and love and queer love.
Okay, hi, I'm Miss Khan. I just graduated from law school. I identify as pansexual and gender fluid, and I use he, she, they pronouns. Uh, I kind of thought about the whole pronoun thing for a while, and I didn't really want to keep telling people what like my pronouns change as and when like I feel like my gender changes. And I also realized that when I give them that, when like they get to choose what they call me with, that also makes me feel a little weird. So I kind of just felt like I can, like, people can say whatever pronoun, my identity comes from me, and I kind of feel comfortable with that, so I'm okay with any pronoun.
So I'm Apurv. I graduated from law school as well a year ago. Not as well, but I mean like as well for graduation, but yeah, not for the year ago. So yeah, I'm currently preparing for my masters to start and doing some research and attending some conferences and all of that. And then what do I like? I like boys, or and I like studying. I like poetry. I like writing poetry more than reading. I also like reading, but more writing. And I like photography and all of that. And I also identify as gender fluid. I don't really care about pronouns. I don't really care how you refer me to, as it doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, I'm just pretty much comfortable with whatever you wish to call me with. So as long as there's no hate speech involved, so yeah, that's fine. That's all.
Hi, I'm Surya, and I also just graduated law school. And this is actually my first podcast, so I don't really know how it really goes. And yeah, I'm really excited about.
I don't really know how this goes either.
Hi, I'm Karen. I haven't graduated law school. Hopefully, I will next year. Fingers crossed. I have recently come to identify as bisexual. A bit of a complicated journey. Maybe we'll get into that over the podcast. I like dogs a lot. I think they're very reflective, and it's weird, but it's weird to say, but I think part of discovering my own sexuality involved like just talking to my dogs and like just walking around with them and seeing how comfortable they were with their bodies. Um, uh, yeah, it's that, and I'm excited. I haven't done a podcast before either, so looking forward to it.
Okay, so first of all, do your parents know you're here? Like, do they know you're doing this?
No.
Yeah, that's no for me as well. They don't know, yeah.
I have told them that I'm in a meeting of sorts, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, are you worried? Like, does that thrill you? Does that excite you? Or are you scared?
I'm sure if they ask me, I can make something up, so I'm not worried. But if they find out, if like to tell them the truth would be something that's a worrying person.
I'm actually out to them, so it doesn't really worry me. And yeah, it used to give a lot of thrill. Like, I mean, hiding from the world while going out with boys back some years ago, that did give a lot of thrill. But I mean, like, there's no thrill now because people know.
So I don't live with my parents. At least they're not here right now. So I'm not stressed about this at all. But like I've told my mom that I'm bi, and she, I think, reacted pretty well because I think sorry, I'm just gonna like rant a little bit here. It's kind of cute. So we have like a land nearby the house that's sort of overgrown with grass, and I've sort of recently been trying to reconnect with my mom because we haven't talked in a while. And one of the things that I wanted to do with her was to sort of build like a playground for non-men on the ground, because it was just lying there like a badminton court, and it would be only for non-men in the community, and or like for trans people, for non-binary people, just no men allowed, and including the people who would take care of the ground. And I think I was talking to my mom about that, and she was surprisingly really receptive to the idea, and she got excited, and I kept using the word LGBTQ, and she's like, what does that mean? Like a very cute way, because she didn't know what any of the abbreviations meant. So I explained each of them, and when I came to bi, and I'm like, for example, I'm bisexual, and she's like, oh, okay, and we sort of just had a casual conversation without her reacting much about it. I don't think my dad knows, but yeah, this is just cute. I thought I should tell you guys.
That is so cute.
Also, I love the idea of the playground, like
Right? I think we
trying
need
to,
more spaces. Yeah.
yeah, like create the sort of safe space around you. It sounds wonderful.
So, you guys want to tell me about your first crush? Like, who is it? At what age? Or what you felt? How did you know it was a crush?
No, I'm pretty
Pretty
sure it was a
old.
girl in my school, and that's when you sort of figure out that you're straight. And then until you look at some TV actor who's not wearing a shirt, and then you certainly realize that okay, you just got to know something about yourself that you don't completely understand, and you then just shrug it off that maybe it's uh, maybe it's this collective romanticization of shirtless men that has hit me, and some things like that, right? But coming to my sort of non-heterosexuality, I mean, that's how I like to uh, label it. More on that later. It's that it's see, the thing is that we are always taught who you are supposed to get attracted to, right? And but somehow we always know that whatever we are experiencing is not a universal one size fit all thing. So I always knew that I'm attracted, that I'm not straight in that term. I always knew, even when I was 5, the games that I played with boys uh, in private, yeah, that was telling because it was like दो लड़के घर घर खेल रहे हैं. So that doesn't really happen a lot, but it did happen with me. So when I look back, I sort of always knew who I was attracted to. Only there were a lot of excuses. The only thing that has happened in the last 4 to 3 years is basically removing these excuses and start exploring these things. So I know you started with who my first crush was. I'm so sorry I took this direction, but yeah, that's sort of what I started thinking because I don't really know who my first crush was.
That's very interesting about the game. Like, yeah, when I think about it, it's pretty. It's weird that we played these games like Ghar Ghar and stuff, and yeah, we had no problem with played with boys, we played with girls, and then suddenly puberty and all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember I was watching porn, and I don't know if you have watched straight porn or not, if you all have done that, but there is always this plug-in sort of GIF type of thing which will show you these penis enlargement pills. Have you all noticed
Mm.
that?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
really weird, but I remember I looked at it and I was just, I was shocked by it, and not in a way ki what's happening, but I liked what I saw there, right? So lot of things there. So we always know that something is not normal with us, and it's always about saying to ourselves that what we are is in fact normal. So I mean that has been my journey so far.
I feel like what we are started off with saying that you're sort of you presume that you're straight.
Mm.
Uh, like so much of what you start off with as a kid, like you were talking about how we're completely comfortable playing all sorts of games when we're kids, but once we reach puberty, it becomes really awkward, but just between like the boys and the girls, and that's only because of like what we think things are. Because once I realized that I was into women, like my first thought in my head was, but I went to a girls' school my whole life, and like how did I not realize it then? And it was only like when I came to college and I saw other people like that, and I was like, hey, I kind of feel like that too. So this makes sense. So I feel like a lot of it was just blocked out by how I thought I should be. It was really nice, but it's only when you see other people that you think that maybe your feeling is also sort of okay, and you've just been mislabeling it because that's what you always thought it should be.
All girls school, not once.
Yeah.
I am sure. So,
No, but I always felt like, and like so you're in an all girls school, so there are obviously also like rumors about, oh, like those two girls are lesbians, and when that happens, you like you sort of shit, what's the word? You socially discriminate them, like as in so you don't also want
Mhm.
to exhibit that, like you don't want to talk about it because it makes you into a rumor, it makes you into something people want to stay away from, it makes you gossip. So I mean, I'm from Chennai. It's a really conservative school also, so any sort of like talk about this would really affect your social status or how people saw you. So that was never something that I even like let myself think about.
I relate to what Muskan said so much. Also, like, just for context, I'm also from Chennai, so this whole Brahminized conservative school is also something that I went to. And I'm so sorry, Muskan, if I'm cutting you off, let me know. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, I don't know when to jump in. I am not great at like conversing with people. But yeah, let me know if I'm cutting you off. Um, I relate to so much of what you said. I think so. Uh, like I have like a really close knit group of 5 friends, all women, and like I love them like family, and they're still my closest friends in the entire world, and they know me so well, right? And like every cliche lesbian story, I think I had a crush on my best friend for the longest time. Uh, and we would like be so physical with each other and not in sexual ways, but like we would hug each other, hold each other's hands, kiss each other's heads, and teachers would look at us weirdly in school, and they wouldn't like the fact that we were so physical. Like we would just be like cuddling each other in the corner of the classroom, and like even in hindsight it wasn't sexual, it was just a lot of love for this person, and gender wasn't a question in all of that. And like teachers would like come in and be like, why are you doing this, or like separate us or make us sit at different desks. And the and we would go around saying things like, you know what, I think if we were lesbians we would totally date each other. Just because of how well we clicked. And I was in a relationship with my partner at that point, and so we broke up last year, and I'm in a relationship with him again. But in the last year when I was single is when I sort of started exploring my sexuality and whether or not I was bi. And the first sort of source of I may or may not be bi that came up was instantly this memory with my best friend. And I told her, and she's like, you know what? I think like I might feel that way too. And she's identified as bi for a long time now. And we told our other best friends this, that we might like each other, and they're like, yeah, we know. and um and I'm like, what? And then they brought up all of these instances that I told you guys, which wasn't even in my memory. It wasn't even in her memory. And she's like, yeah, you guys are so obvious about it. And we always thought, if it happened, it would be you guys. I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't know this. So yeah, my earliest crush was like an asshole guy in 5th grade, and it's so irrelevant. But me discovering my sexuality and being bi was so recent. But the roots have been like for so long, like so long. Like I used to make out with a doll that was a girl when I was like 6 years old, which is kind of embarrassing to say on a podcast, but fine, cool. Like I should have known.
And when I think about it, there's like a bucket list that I made with my best friend. And one of the things said like, be gay for a day or something. And then we both like look at it. She also is gay and asexual. So we like last year we found it and we just looked at each other and went, took that one a little too seriously. Lasted for more than a day.
How blind were we? Oh my god.
Apoorv, you haven't let us in on your crush.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what Surya and Muskan said were pretty relatable to me. As in, like, my crushes, like Surya mentioned, was also like movie stars and all of that, like shirtless men in TV shows and all of that, and TV shows or movies and so on, and like Bollywood actors and all of that. But like that didn't happen before I hit puberty. I had no idea about it. But then I was a very shy kid who just didn't feel comfortable around boys, and I would like to play with dolls. I would like love to dance to very, I don't know, quote unquote feminine music. While I don't know what that means, but like yeah, but yeah, I mean, I like playing with dolls. I sat with girls, or I don't know if they identify as girls now, but then like yeah, I mean like women, girls, or like in school, like all my like before I hit puberty, and then I think once I went to boarding school, I think that left very enduring scars on me because there was a lot of bullying. I was called sissy and all of that because like those gender identity, right? Like where I didn't fit in that particular like straight guy or like just like a man or something of that sort. So that like left some scars, and I left a year afterwards, and I didn't have any crush there also on any boy. I just didn't like being with boys a lot. But then when I came back, right, then like Muskan was mentioning, there was this sort of compartmentalizing was happening that I didn't want to be associated with the word gay or lesbian and all of that. Or and then so like yeah, I would like I knew it like once I came back because everybody in boarding school talked about porn and everything of that sort. So I did experiment and I got caught the first time because I'm very bad at cheating. Not the first time but second time because I just left in the run one, and then I did something called sex.com, and then my laptop opened and my dad was like looking at it, and then they were mentioning it like, oh, you know what, Apoorv, it's okay to be curious and all of that, but things like that, that's aside. But then yeah, I would look at magazines like Cosmopolitan and all of that, and there would be like things mentioned about sex, and then they would be mentioning about men, and that would just turn me on. So I knew it, but then I never wanted to mention like associate with that. So when people would call me like for 3 years, like 8th, 9th, 10th, I was called like ladki in the boarding like school, like not the boarding school now. So yeah, but then it would really make me want to hate myself and to be like more masculine and all of that. But yeah, I knew it all along. But then there was this compartmentalizing, and I did have a crush on, and I never had a crush on a real person. Like, I mean, maybe, yeah, there was this asshole guy also, like Karen mentioned, maybe. But then, yeah, there was just that guy. But like, I had actually crushes on like girls, like who were like straight from Bollywood movies, like looked like that, the fit that particular beauty standard of Bollywood. So that was my first crush. And it was actually strong infatuation, but it was just perhaps indoctrination. So yeah, I mean, I knew it, but then, yeah, just compartmentalizing and running away from that.
Mhm, mhm. This is so common. Like, I think a lot of my friends' stories also, their coming out crushes were best friends. And like for the longest time, you don't know whether it was like an intense friendship or was it something erotic or um, yeah. And also I think there's something that is separately for people who are queer is that straight people don't have problem. Like they presume that there could always be romantic tension between a guy and a girl, because of hello ladka ladki kabhi whatever those nahi reh sakti. But with like when it's the same gendered, there's usually presumption of a friendship, and then to you as well and to the other person, and then yeah, you just never know, you've gone through maybe desiring them and not known until years later. So has that ever happened? And like how do you still navigate that space where you don't know whether it's friendship or something erotic? Like, is there a distinction even?
Me, you're right. Like especially since I've had such close like female friendships, um, I've definitely felt that. And then just like you're in this space where just like, do I say something, or do I just let it go? Because sometimes you also know, like, you know how your friend feels, you know their sexual orientation, but sometimes a little part of you is like, but like, if I could ask, and that this could be something beautiful.
Yeah.
um so I've always, I mean, I think I have asked once, uh the other times I've sort of just like hinted, joked about it, and like then just let it go. But once when I did ask, like my friend just said, "Yeah, that's not me." So I was like, okay. I think like in the end, it's usually with these friendships where this person means a lot to you and you mean a lot to them. So as long as it's something that you can move on from, it's fine. Like they don't hold it against you or anything. But I think like if it does become something that's contentious, then that's really difficult to deal with. But thankfully, that's not happened yet with me.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'll just jump in over here because, like Muskan was talking about how it can be contentious, right? And I think it can especially get contentious in circles that have this toxic masculinity idea that no homo and all of that. So I think how I've approached this is like keeping this very, like, double life, like you were mentioning. Like, I've actually kept that where if I would like somebody, right, I would just be very awkward around them and not let myself get any close to them because I'm like, there's no point in getting yourself like I've never let myself develop feelings for any person who I wasn't sure about their sexuality. So I would like in college I approached the and then I think in school also like because of like I studied in Haryana for a long time and then it was so toxic masculinity was so entrenched that it just seemed to be impossible and then there were 377 there the idea of ever like letting this same-sex relationship any sort of same-sex relationship in my life develop was just unrealistic like super unrealistic only when it came in college and then one day I was lonely and then discovered Grinder so that's how it made sense for me that I never let myself get close to any boys like I would still feel sometimes uncomfortable around men or boys because I just don't want to develop any feelings for them or then and they can get super awkward once they know that you have same sex orientation because they just be like oh this guy just wants me or things like that because of the like how gay men are depicted as super promiscuous who just want to get in your pants and things like that so that's how I just like keep distance and I do have awkward moments where I just be like okay I'm leaving because yeah, I just keep a distance from boys who I know are straight, and then I keep professional relationships, friendships too. But it gets awkward. I don't know why in my head or in their head. But then I think it became started to become normalized, and I've had like healthier friendships where I don't get awkward with like straight boys. And then Grinder and Tinder makes it easier because you know their sexuality.
This like for example girls hostel and boys hostel, right? Like even now if I have a very close male friend and I know there's nothing that's ever going to happen between us, I will still not change my clothes in front of him. Like I will either make him shut his eyes or whatever, right? But say in hostels, even if I wasn't attracted to a girl or if I was attracted to a girl who's in the same room, we would change um like we've all been braless. So do you think that was ever a problem for you, or was that something that you had to navigate, or was like it was easy to like get accustomed to? Yeah.
For me, it wasn't really an issue, to be very honest. Uh, f Mostly because it took me a lot of time to properly accept this side of me, accept my sexuality as a complete thing. It took me a lot of time. But even after I did accept it with myself, but I was not out and open with my friends, with my roommates and others, I never really developed anything strange because I did have this question that because of my sexuality, I do get attracted to men. And I have my roommates who, because of our capacity, I mean, yeah. So I always used to question myself if this is something they should know, and by and should I let them? Should I make them know about my sexuality? Because then am I giving them an option in terms of how they want to behave with someone who is not hetero, right? Uh, so I was a little concerned about it earlier, and I used to question myself that am I making, am I like appropriating something for myself when I am in my room with my roommates or with my friends? In moments where they change your, I mean, it's basically about what Rena was saying, right? In moments where they are changing their clothes in front of me, am I appropriating anything out of it? Because I don't, I didn't. think that it was something. Uh, I mean, I did never felt that at the school if I am appropriating. So I used to ask these questions to myself a lot because it really helped me sort out who I was, even if I am a non heterosexual man. What type of a non heterosexual man am I? So those questions I did ask of myself, but it didn't really turn out to be a problem for me. And later on, when I did come out to my friends, it wasn't a problem for them as well. So yeah, so it's fine. It's really fine. Yesterday, in fact, I came out to two of my cousins at night, very randomly, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for them at all. And I hope it isn't. I mean, not that I care, but like it isn't a problem for them as well. So yeah, it's about understanding your boundaries. It's about understanding their boundaries, and as long as both people are respectful to each other, I don't think it should turn into anything wrong, any of that.
I was just gonna say that it feels like it's easier for women to navigate this rather than it is for men. Um, I don't know where this is coming from because like words aren't forming in my head right now, but just from experience, like because we're also conditioned to feel our emotions more and like communicate more, and they aren't. They're like taught to repress it. I think it just makes it much more easier for us. Also, this whole women being close to each other and like being physically close is a lot more normalized than it is with like men, right? Um, so I think yeah, the dynamics in a girls' hostel versus what might be in a boys' hostel would vary widely. Also, like this whole idea of women being like naked with each other and like walking braless in like very platonic ways was so new to me. Like I freaked out because my roommate um and would like just walk around the room topless, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I was obviously projecting because it was also a lot of like um repressed sexuality, one repressed comfort with my body was a huge part of it. But it was very new for me. Prerna said about women changing in front of each other and like taking off our bras and just being comfortable was very, very new to me. Because I didn't live with women my own age until I came to the girls' hostel. And it was new. I freaked out a lot in the first year. And but I don't know, it was like it was nice to be that comfortable with a random group of people and feel safe enough to be that way. I would walk around the corridors in my underwear and it felt great, honestly, just amazing. And it's kind of sad that you don't get that everywhere, and you only get that in like these female communities. And I don't know how it is for the guys hostel, but I imagine it must be difficult or more difficult given how conditioning is.
I think also, also it's about safety for me at times because I feel like I'm somebody who doesn't like to be touched a lot, at least unless I'm very comfortable. And then I haven't had great experiences in boarding school. And like boys also in college, I sort of like felt very uncomfortable at times where like guys were changing their clothes. And this is another second thing which is very interesting, which is about how this fetishization in gay industry, like gay media and all of that, about like where you meet just randomly and you have sexual tension and then you don't know each other's sexuality and all of that. So that does complicate things at times. But then I've been always like the first aspect about safety where I would just get very scared if any boy is getting too close to me, no matter what their intentions are. So I've always, for example, when I was in my exchange, I felt more comfortable there because it was like a mixed dorm and there were more women. So I was happier there because I felt safer and more comfortable.
Okay, I do have to add something on this. Uh, it could be a little different from what Abu has said, but I feel that men do touch each other as friends. I mean, men do strange type of things, and I don't know if they should even do this. Like we do strange things in our room, and it's all platonic. Like it isn't exactly that we are feeling sexual for each other, but we would act as if we are feeling sexual for each other, but it's all under platonic spirit. Now
You
it
can be
sometimes
explicit
happens.
if you want. Like, tell us.
No, no, no. I mean, I don't know how to say this. So it's like you just come in and enact as if okay, so there are a few things that I think every friends group has done this. Every male friends group has done this. That there is always a time when if your male friend suddenly looks really handsome today, then you just start, I don't know, flirting with them or teasing them. I don't know. You just start doing something like that. You become a little too sexual. It's all under platonic. It's all in platonic faith, right? But we do things like that, and it's very frequent. I have done this with my best friends a lot of times, and they have done this with me, and it's all under platonic spirit, and we know that. Although sometimes it does happen that you are doing this thing, but and it's exactly what Apoorv said, that it's suddenly there's this sexual tension where you don't know that there is, like, both of you are feeling sexually towards each other, but there is a lot of sexual tension that does end up happening a lot of times. It has happened with me. That was sort of my first sexual experience with a man, to be very honest. So that does happen. So the thing is that male sexuality in itself is also very repressed. It's very limited, right? And men also don't get a lot of space to express it and to enjoy it, to be very honest. But it does happen, and there are so many moments it does happen. I mean, if you have watched Moonlight, if all of, I hope all of us have watched Moonlight. So there are a few things there, right, where there are these two friends, the main two characters are these two friends who just have a moment and then they just move on with their lives. That stuff happens a lot with men. So just something about that. But I just don't understand how some of these men display this sexual tension or do this sexual skit with a very platonic spirit. But the moment you tell them, and this was something that I was scared, this was something I was really scared when I wanted to come out to them, that the moment you actually tell them that, hey, I'm not straight, they suddenly change their behavior in front of you, that they won't touch you because they are always scared that that skit that we used to play, I may take it in a different sense. And to be very honest, it's a reasonable scare. So that's where communication comes in. That's where communicating with your friends comes in and all of that. So things do work out, but yeah.
Which do Bollywood couples do you think there was like homoerotic tension there? Like a lot of people say Jay and Viru had like sexual tension. You know, that kind. Do you think there are any? Are there any Bollywood couples you ship?
There was Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan in Kal Ho Na Ho. And do you remember that whole skit, the whole comedy skit with the maid, where the maid actually thought like there was something going on between them, and they actually made the whole thing a very funny thing, which was
Saif Ali
slightly.
Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Yes, yeah, not.
Sorry, Saif Ali Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. Oh,
Yeah.
no, not Salman.
Yeah.
Saif Ali Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. And like when Saif Ali Khan was also, much, like they were younger during the younger days, and they were both very handsome. And I really liked that whole friendship vibe that they had. And I think there's a little bit of problematic comedy there, but otherwise it was definitely a couple that I really liked.
Uh-huh.
I like this couple in this movie. What do you, Siddharth Malhotra and then Student of the Year, like the Varun Dhawan guy and Siddharth Malhotra. They had a tension, all of that.
Yes, they were made a hot couple, yeah.
But I don't know why Ranveer Singh and Arjun Kapoor, they're actually cousins, but I, for some reason, just totally shipped them. Yeah.
But honestly, Ranveer Kapoor with anybody.
Yes.
Like, I think.
True.
Did I say Ranveer Kapoor?
Right.
Ranveer Singh, but yeah, Ranveer Kapoor.
Ranveer Singh or Ranveer? I don't know his last name, but Ranveer, the guy who's married to Deepika Padukone.
Yeah,
what is his
Singh,
last name? Ranveer Singh, right?
Singh.
Yeah. So I think Ranveer Singh with anybody because he just gives me like vibes. I can't explain it. It's nice vibes. I think there was an episode on Karan Johar, which terrible episode, but like I think it was him and Ranveer on the sofa, and they were sort of pulling Karan's leg because Karan is closeted but openly gay, whatever that whole thing is. And the entire episode, there was just a lot of sexual energy, and that's all I could focus on while watching it with my mom. So yeah, I think Ranveer with anybody.
Yeah, and he's super touchy, right? Like, I mean, like, and that I think that does relate to what Surya was mentioning about in boys' hostel, how people can get very touchy, and that's something that I get scared of very easily. Like if I see people getting touched, and that has happened one incident where I was in school and then I told the guy to not touch me like that just because it's in a fun manner, and then he intentionally started touching me again. But I just wouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, like, and yeah, I just want to run away from that. And some people do enjoy that. I just don't. I just don't like it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, some similar incidents happened where one guy had to comply with basically this guy was like, okay, this seems a little explicit, but can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
So this was this, okay, and then this guy was like literally took this junior and was grinding against him, and the guy seemed very uncomfortable. We had to comply, and then everybody was laughing. The guy who was there was laughing, but he didn't seem all that comfortable to me. So I mean, like, I don't know, it's just like very blurred boundaries, and I think it has to do with repressed sexuality and all of that. Interesting stuff, but yeah, can get very blurred.
There's this show on Prime named Hostel Zade, I think, or Hostel Daze. There was this ragging scene where apparently some senior men uh, were just like, I would say, sexually assaulting a guy because they were touching them at the wrong places, and they're clearly uncomfortable about that. So that has happened. I mean, thankfully, I was not part of such a situation where something like that has happened, but I have heard of such instances, and I have in fact seen some instances where these type of things have happened, and those are really comfortable. And as Apoorv said, those can be really scary.
Just because this is like triggering a memory from school, where guys used to sort of punch each other's dicks, whenever, where like they'd get into fights, like comical fights, or like somebody would do something stupid and they would like automatically go for the dick and like roll over each other. And I used to think they were pulling each other's dicks, like. And then I would ask my male friend, like, this is so weird, what are you guys doing? Like, I would never punch my best friend's pussy. And he's like, no, it's just, it's for fun. And I don't know when they grew out of it, because like they stopped doing it in high school, but like when we were in middle school and like the puberty wasn't like universal, it was like on and off, and it was just, I don't know what was happening. But like Surya nodded vigorously, so I kind of want to hear from him.
uh, so my friends had an acronym for this, NCC, National Cadet Corps, and we had an acronym for this called Nut Cracking Case. For some reason, I don't know why we did that. I don't know why. If I can have a time machine, I will go back and ask myself, "कि क्यों कर रहे हो तुम लोग?" Like, I have no idea why we used to do that. I just have no idea. It was funny, apparently.
Funny and like also a little erotically charged, right? Like,
no, very much erotically charged.
Interesting thing about this, right? Like these things also get reenacted when as people get older. So I've heard stories where people like to reenact such incidents, like when they're like quote unquote hooking up, like they want to be like, school kids again and like reenact these incidents because that's how their sexuality developed, I think. And yeah, so
when do you think was the first time you felt something sexual towards anything? Like, if you guys are comfortable, what was the first thing that sort of made you explore your sexuality? Like, what is something that turned you on? And what made you curious about it? Was it something that you were comfortable with? Were you uncomfortable with in the start itself?
Okay, so for me, it was my mom had like a bookshelf of books which I wasn't allowed to read from. Mostly they were adult books, right? Sort of like Sidney Sheldon's and whatnot, adult mystery thriller books, which also had a bit of like sex and stuff in them. And which made me really want to read from them even when I was a kid. So I used to like slyly go take it and replace it with another book that looks similar, so my mom won't know that I took it. And that sort of was my first introduction to erotica, from like reading books which had them. And I didn't really know when I was reading them. I like my first thing was like, I don't know why this is making people feel these things that the book is talking about, like what's happening. So I used to just read on my bed. I used to lie down on my bed and I used to read through like the night and stuff. So I just sort of went under the covers and I tried it for myself. And that was my that was my first time, and I think I was very surprised at the fact that um that I am feeling something, and that for some reason my area is getting really wet. And I was like, okay, no, maybe I've done something wrong. And so like I went and I washed my fingers and I was like, what is this? What did I do? Did I pee? I was really nervous. But then I actually liked it. So then I started doing it. Like it just sort of became a ritual for me to do every night while I was reading. And I don't know, so this was when I was a kid, and I don't know when by kid I mean like probably like 8th or ninth grade. I don't know when I stopped, because I was never really conscious about what I was doing. I wasn't aware that what I'm doing is actually masturbation or any sort of thing like that. I was just doing it, and I think I just stopped at one point until later when I learned about what it is and I realized, oh, okay, this is what I was doing.
I read about uh, erection in an encyclopedia, and from there it led to what sex as a biological concept is. Uh, I read about that, and for some reason, I it was a turn on for me. And I had just read about erection, so I was like, okay, everything's intact, everything's working. So I was happy about that. It's like, okay. And then later on, I found my brother's porn stash that he that he had left in our house, and then there was no one in the house, so I was watching porn. I had no idea what to do with it, and I was watching porn for like 2 to 3 hours, and that was sort of my first uh, orgasm. If that's the yeah, that's when I had my first orgasm. When I had it, I was really scared about what happened. I never did it again for like 2 to 3 months until I tried again and like, okay, fine.
So I think what aroused me, right? Like I think I didn't know at that point, but I was like, no, which was before puberty. Like I think way before puberty, there was this really like good-looking senior, and I wanted to like fight him, and that gave weird sensations. I didn't know what it was. I really wanted to fight him, and that I don't know what it was. Like I want to fight him, and then just do something like fight him. Like I was like a kid, very, and then I forgot about that because I couldn't explain what was happening. But then yeah, after that, yeah, then I would just do dictionary entries and like cosmopolitan magazines and like weird things that, and then the usual stuff. But then this was very interesting. Where like I mean, way before puberty, I was having these sensations, which I can look back and think that it was definitely sexual.
For me, it was that doll that I told you guys I had when I was like 6. So my first introduction to like sexual things was Tamil movies. And parents were just like ridiculously casual about it. Like they would just watch all sorts of shit with their kids around, thinking that nobody understands anything. I still remember that there was this one Tamil movie where the guy like breaks an egg over the girl's stomach, and she's so hot it fries it or some shit like that. And I tried to reenact it with the doll that I used to make out with. And I still have the doll here. She's sitting right there on top of a printer. And I was like 6 years old, and after that I just never tried anything sexual again. Until I think around
for a fried egg.
Huh?
Are you sure you weren't just hungry for a fried egg?
I mean, that's very likely. Very likely. I think I don't know. It was just God knows what this was. But also the hunger is very likely. Very, very likely. And I think, oh my God, my first sort of any blighted children's books was Harry Potter in 5th grade. And like those scenes where Harry's pining after Ginny and Ron's pining after Hermione. I would like keep going back to those scenes, and then I would do that in Hunger Games with Katniss and Peeta. I would like look for those particular scenes where they kiss, and those would really turn me on. But I never masturbated until I was in 12th, and I never really actually masturbated until I was in college, because I think I grew up in a Christian household that repressed this so much that even though I was getting aroused, the idea that I could touch my clit and pleasure myself never struck me until like way later. But yeah, funny things.
Hey, thanks for sharing such intimate stories. So, do you think currently and how, given your desires have grown from since you were a child to whatever you are now, um, how have you like come to terms with sex and your sexuality at this point? The reason I'm asking is because um, queer people are differentiated based on who we desire, right? Because yeah, and so that desire then just becomes complicated. There is illegality, there is shame, there is stigma. Um, so and I think when we experienced these as children, it was just whatever we felt, and there weren't these additional layers to think through our sexuality. But right now, knowing what you do, knowing the world, knowing everything, how have you come to terms with your desire, your fetishes? um yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just jumped in because this is like a very nice, I mean, like personal question or like something that been like it sort of defined a lot of time period. I mean, like a lot of my life because like it's been from a journey of self-hatred to like finally acceptance. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't just you intellectualize it and it's gone, because I think your body remembers like that hatred that you hear, the stigma gets buried somewhere in your mind, the psyche. You need to like figure that out, where that's coming from, and let that go. So it's been a very tough journey. And I had a problem of massive guilt. Like every time I would masturbate, I would feel so much shame and guilt. Like it was like almost pathological guilt. Like I would feel like I'm a terrible person, shouldn't be alive. Every time I would do that, and that would lead to this compulsive cycle of like masturbating, feeling guilt, and then trying to alleviate the symptoms of the guilt with more masturbation. And then I would feel like a very shameful person. And all of these, like this hidden self-hatred that I didn't realize, did lead to depression. But then finally, like coming to accepting it and then getting some therapy. And like it was as recent as last year where I've had the problem of guilt. Like if I would masturbate, I would feel guilty, and I would be very surprised that people don't feel guilty after masturbation. Like if I would like hook up, I would like ask my partners like, "Did you feel guilty?" They're like, "No." And I was like, "What is that possible? Like, how is it possible they're not feeling guilty after this?" And then it like took a year for me to realize that like now I know that I don't really have to feel guilty. Like it's so much like body positivity that's there now, and it took a lot of effort. Like I walk around my room naked, and then when no one's around, obviously, and then just like that's something that's really helped me accept who I am, and then all of my desires and so on. And then I think because of the hatred, like you also form kinks where you're sort of reenacting the hatred towards your own self, so that complicated sexuality further. But then yeah, I mean, I was able to finally accept and then enjoy and honor. I think honor is the right word. Like honoring my needs and my body was really like therapeutic for me. It did help me heal a lot from years of shame and toxicity and hatred, and that nobody I could like I have never had anybody to talk to. Like I mean, I was a very shy person, so like I did talk about these things I talk about in college, but then yeah, I mean, like last year was a final healing part of this journey.
So nice to hear. Great.
Relate so much to that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So for me, I mean, like I said earlier, we always know that there is something not normal for us, right? And then it becomes all about explaining yourself that what you are is in fact normal. I don't think I had any hate towards myself for what I was feeling. There were a lot of excuses. And then obviously the Navtej judgment happened on September 6th. And I remember the day that it happened. I was extremely happy. I was extremely happy. I used to call myself an ally at that point, and I was really happy the day it happened. For some reason, it felt really personal to me, but my internal closet sort of made sure that it didn't feel too personal about it, even though I was crying and even though I was happy in all of it. So I mean, that really started something in the inside. Like that exploration really started because after the judgment, there were a lot of people who came out. And the thing is that when we come out, we are also helping others to come out from their own closets, right? So I saw a lot of Instagram stories on well uh, on people just exploring how their sexuality is, and people just talking. It was not even like, okay, now we are free. It was just normal things on how, let's say, a lesbian woman feels about her girlfriend, things as simple as that. Because I what really helped me was this normalization that really started in a very visible scale after that judgment. That really helped me a lot. And that triggered. And then I remember I was in Kolkata doing my internship, and I didn't really get any matches on Tinder in that women's section. So then I just felt like, okay, let's explore the men's section, right? And then I matched with someone, and the person I did match with someone, he was extremely attractive. And then I spoke to him, and this was the first time that I was talking to a guy, knowing that the other guy is not straight, right? And even I wasn't sure about how I am about this. So I spoke to him, and that was really liberating. I don't even remember who the guy is now because I panicked and unmatched him later on. Then I remember it was in March 2019 when it was. Then I finally came out to myself, and okay, we are like, I am not straight. But then who am I? Like, what's the term that I'm supposed to use? That whether I'm bisexual and whether I'm pansexual. But the thing that was really difficult for me was how to balance romance and sexuality together. Because for me, since I always recognize myself as a straight person, right? And I always felt sexually attracted to women, and I always felt romantically for them. However, that was not the case for me at that point of time for men, because sexually, I did feel sexually attracted to them, but it was not the case for romance. And for some reason, I conflated these two. And then I Googled a lot about on this. And after Googling, something said that you are homo, romantic, and bisexual. And I felt like this is a really long phrase to describe someone on how they feel about themselves sexually and romantically. And I just felt like this is so complicated because half of the time, what I'm trying to do is to basically fit myself into these predefined words. And it was really difficult for me. I mean, it's like, I hope all of you have watched this movie Aligarh, and the lead character played by Manoj Bajpayee says this phrase: how do I explain all that I am in letters, which is gay? And it's the same thing for me. How do I explain all of it? So I was like, I'm done with this. I am done with placing a predefined label on myself. And okay, now here's the thing. Not a not a lot of people speak about this even within the queer circles. But when you are not from the upper caste, which is to say that when you are from the lower caste, things change a lot for you, because my caste identity is framed in such a way where I have had to hide my caste identity ever since I was born. And my family, everything was built around it. So coming out sexually was also a moment for me to come out on the basis of like about my caste. And both of them were intertwined with each other, because I felt that let's stay in this closet and let's not talk about our sexuality, right? To be safe from the outside world. But then I felt like kitna chup rahunga? Like, how silent should I stay about myself? Because I am always silent about my caste and everything that comes with it. And I felt, and that was the first time when I sort of realized that how, let's say, Dalit queer persons stay in a different layers of closet, and how difficult that is, and how it comes with its own set of challenges, right? And that's something which I'm still trying to explore. And to be honest, I have come a long way in that direction as well. Uh, but yeah, for me, if I speak about my experience, I was coming out to myself uh, that I was non-heterosexual, and that's the label that I sort of settled to, so that I can say it to the straight world that I am not you, that I am different, and I'm okay with it, and I should be okay with it, and you should be okay with it. But about my caste, and I sort of started to come out for that as well, because they were so interconnected. Because I felt that if I am sharing only this part of me, and if I'm not sharing this part, then I understand it's not my mistake, but it is still not liberating for me, and I had to liberate myself from that. So even now, I don't. speak really comfortably about my caste, but it is somehow easy for me to speak about my sexuality. That I'm part of this podcast, which was supposed to be about our own sexual desires and our own pleasures. But even for me right now, speaking about my own caste is a little difficult, right? And this is something that I have sort of uh, heard a lot from many queer Dalit persons. They say that they feel comfortable because of the judgment. They say that it's really comfortable for them. They feel really comfortable to speak about the sexuality and their gender, but caste is a little difficult for them. So it's a mix and match of all of it. So even when I'm really coming out about my sexuality, I cannot do that completely without coming out about my caste and being really open about it. So it's a process, it's happening, and I hope in the coming 2 years I am a little forward. I'm sure that I've come a long way. I know that. And I'm sure that in the coming 2 to 3 years I will go a little more farther. So it's a process. It's a process. But this process was really complicated for me, and it will always be complicated for me, I think. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing, Surya.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, hugs.
Thank you.
What are your porn search categories? Like, what is there anything in there that surprises you? That you're a little bit like ashamed or embarrassed of, or everybody secretly love, or you will never tell anybody, but is there one?
Incest.
Okay.
I have no shame about this incest
Okay.
and BDSM.
Hindi abuses, because I don't know, that just turned me on a lot. And yeah, that does something for me.
Okay.
And also, I stopped watching porn, and like, I have just been hopelessly in love with this one person. I just imagine myself just like, doing it with them, loyalty and stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
I also try to stop watching mostly because of like the whole ethical reason, and I try to read as much as possible. But I think what surprises me is group and clubbing. Like I think
What?
BDSM, like voyeurism to some
Okay.
extent, like
Okay.
just I don't know why. Like I find so BDSM and group also to some extent I can make amends with. Like I can understand that, like that's fine. But I don't understand why voyeurism is a kink. Like what do I get out of someone else watching? Like the idea of that in real life makes me very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I also worry about, like, obviously consensual voyeurism, like that person should want to watch. But like I don't know why it's something that I like. I've never unpacked that, and I hope
That's
I don't
fine.
do.
That's fine. Yeah, I think sex and desire is just something we really can't shame it. I mean, if it's there, it's there. And like feeling like turned on by it and actually doing it and contributing to an actual harm is like different. And I think conflating it just increases stigma on sex. And it just makes it harder to talk about something that we all are feeling, but you just can't do it.
Also, like, public transport, uniform, and like, obviously, not obviously, domination, submission, there's no obvious to that. But yeah, I mean, like, that's just so common to me now.
Yeah, a little bit rough. Yes, there is a domination.
Yeah, very consensual, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't. Porn has never like worked for me in the way that I've heard it like work for people. Like it kind of feels weird watching two people smash into each other over and over again. And so I think so there's this website called, I think, Belisa, and there isn't a lot um of nice porn, realistic porn that's also free, but Belisa is. In case you guys are watching it, you can try it out. It works on incognito. But when I do watch porn, like I use this, and I think what I really like is the storyline and the relationship, and it isn't something I'm embarrassed about at all. But it sort of just made me realize how intimacy is very important for me to get turned on sexually, and it doesn't happen otherwise. Which is also like how I was realizing that I might be demisexual, and still figuring it out. But that's one thing. But otherwise, It's a lot of erotica and fan fiction and like your favorite characters. Very nerdy. I love it. Yeah.
Steven and Patrick from Schitt's Creek.
Okay, hentai.
What Karen mentioned about storylines also relatable. What you were mentioning about storylines also pretty relatable for me. Like I think that's my last search, like good gay porn with story, things like that. So yeah.
True. Tumblr. I think we've all had that phase. Gone through many fan fiction. For some, yeah, especially Harry and Tom, like Harry and Draco. Ooh,
Oh my god.
Much.
right?
Oh my god. Right. Yeah. There's a Hermione and Snape one. Freaked me out. Don't like it, but okay. In there.
I agree, Surya. Hentai also. Like, I really like hentai also. Especially since it's also ethical because it doesn't involve nudity.
And sometimes the story is pretty intense. Like it's not just about sex. There is also a lot of drama that's happening. I mean, if you pick the right hentai, then
Yeah, so I wouldn't watch like a full normal sex porn video, which is probably more than like 5-10 minutes. But hentai, I would watch like fully the drama, that the fights that are happening, everything like half an hour long.
I was wondering if you guys ever felt like you weren't sexual enough because queer people are so hyper sexualized. Like I felt that because ever since I've like figured out that I might be bi, I've always felt like I wasn't bi enough because I wasn't sexual enough in that space. Yeah, so I was just wondering if you guys have been through such thoughts. I was asking because like I'm bi, but I've never been with a woman, so it's the whole like, do I qualify is as a queer person is a thought. But
yeah, I mean, like, I think you were talking about, like, asking the question about hypersexuality, right? Yeah, I also feel like the queer community is very hypersexual because I think, like, but I think we didn't have communities to build around in open. So I think sex was the way where, like, I think gay people met each other. And I think hypersexuality is also a trauma response in some ways. I mean, I did, like, there's some research on it. So yeah, I mean, and then I think, yeah, there are a lot of people who are asexual also who like have been coming up and talking about how did they feel very left out by the sexualization in the queer community. But yeah, for me, I've been kind of like hypersexual. Like it's just very balanced now, but yeah, I've been hypersexual. Yeah.
Karen, I sort of made my peace with it by just thinking that in terms of how sexuality and romance interact, it's a spectrum. So like everyone has their own journey with it. So if I don't feel, I mean, personally speaking, because sexuality wasn't really an issue for me, but the romance part was. So I sort of felt that, hey, it's me, and it's really about me instead of how I fit in to the broader schemes of world. So that's how sort of I made my peace with it.
I get that. Yeah.
Well, just have to say that how it's been such a very fun conversation, like, like in the long talking about sexuality, like your experiences and all of that. It's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was so fun. Thank you, Prerna. Like it's been so long, like even talking about something like this because I can't with family, right? And it was really nice thinking about these things, articulating them, and listening to everybody else's stories. So thank you for sharing.
I'm just happy that I had my first podcast and that I did this entire thing with an open door, or I did it with someone when I was speaking, someone was there in the room and I didn't give a damn about it, and I'm just happy about that.
No, I was just gonna say thanks, Prerna, for doing this. It was a lot of fun. It's always so nice to listen to other people and like relate because you feel so much less lonely in your own experiences. And yeah, I love doing this. Thank you.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for being a part of this. It's so nice. And thank you for being so chill about talking about everything. Thanks for honestly sharing your life with me. Been great. Yes, okay. Thank you. Kudos to all of you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prerna.
Have a
Bye.
great life.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, cool. We just move on there.